Hello, everybody. Welcome to a animation breakdown video. I am Ace.
Mecha, I'm the one who animated it. And that was my
And who
computer
is
bing
who is
bong.
this character?
This is Tonfa. She is the bastard child of all of us at the Hit Cam crew. We came up with her because we decided that our party was too weird and we needed a human. So we are going to go over basically how this animation was made up, and the first step to any animation that you don't want to be dog doo-doo is to do a storyboard and convert that into an animatic. So, are there any questions yet, Ace, or are we just going to go ahead and play the animatic real quick?
I have no questions as of yet. So let's just play the animatic.
Gotcha. So, yeah. You're kind of just trying to get the rough keyframes in there. And we're going to go ahead and stop the animation. I've made some changes. One of the things that I guess to just point out now is don't be afraid to change from your original plan. You want to stay solid to it in the sense of don't make more work for yourself. If you have a good plan, stick to the good plan. But once you see, oh, this can be better with more of this, then let it be better. But yeah, it basically just goes along, and you can see it's little more than a stick figure right now. And our little character just does the keyframe poses, really. We always talk
And
about.
you want it to be important to have the keyframes for the keyframes to have the exaggerated
Yes.
posing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that some of my animation teachers have said, anyone that's not working at like Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, we're not drawing it exaggerated enough. The people that work at those real studios, they've been drawing for years and years, and they know exactly how far they can break something without it looking like trash. Whereas a student or a novice, we are always scared of it looking dumb. Like subconsciously, even if you think you're confident, there's a little part of your brain somewhere where it's just like, oh, but the back doesn't bend that far. The human body bends more than we think it does. So go nuts.
My arm doesn't bend that way. My arm doesn't bend that way. Oh, now it does.
It does. And the other thing is that you normally, when you go from stick figure to skeleton to cleanup animation, you kind of tone it down as you go along. Not everyone, this isn't like how every animator is, but as a base rule, if you're going from storyboard to animation, there's going to be, you just kind of like subconsciously tone down that exaggeration. So if you start your storyboard drawing as just insane, like like this, when you get to cleanup, you may be more like that, like a proper right angle. So do the really crazy exaggerated version of it so that as you go forward, you keep that energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Cool. And then of course that we did again, you always work in passes. So for like this first frame especially, we knew that it was going to be held for, as you can see on the timeline, some 200 or something frames. So I went ahead and I did a few cleanup passes on some of the drawings. Let's see, what other ones did I do cleanups like that? You go ahead and try to fix other drawings as you can. So this was originally like that there. So I just went in and like made sure to define that there was a leg there. Let's see, anything else that is interesting? Oh, let's see what this one is. Oh yeah, sometimes you storyboard on different layers just to get it going, but yeah, you're just trying to get the timing down and the rough idea, because then once you take it into animate, Toon Boom, whatever it is you're doing, you're probably gonna do something like this. So you have, again, starting with your keyframe. So something again that Toon Boom, the Toon Boom programs do really nicely is you can mark where your keyframes are and your breakdowns. So that's what we're going to get into next. Obviously, you don't want to just draw straight ahead. There are some things where you do draw straight ahead. However, anything that has a human form or a motive, like a motivation, doesn't normally go straight ahead. So most of the storyboard drawings that we did are going to be let's come here and we'll open this layer up a little bit so you can see the drawings. Most of these drawings are keyframes that you do in your storyboard pass. You may have to add more keyframes in from your storyboard drawing, but the general rule of thumb is for a scene like this for me, the storyboard, anything that was in the animatic is a keyframe that needs a good drawing once I animate it. And you go through and get all of those done first. And you can actually see, if I open this timeline up some more, that it roughly follows that. There's a keyframe. There's like 2 keyframes for every storyboard drawing. But yeah. So you can see where some of those frames line up. There's a little bit of creativity as far as like overshoot and ease in and ease outs go, but you can see where they kind of fall into each other.
Yeah, I notice how the frames, they kind of line up with the line of action.
Yes. Yes, that's definitely a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think I have another folder for, because I did not just go right ahead into lining them, as many may guess. If I can find those drawings. Here we go, the Tonfa breakdowns. Haha. So we actually...
Name your files, kids!
Well, I named the layers, there's just a lot of them. So as you can see, I have many different parts of Tonfa divided up into this little group here. And basically, it is, like I said, this is the one step above storyboard. And it's literally just the anatomy. Occasionally I mark where the face will be, any details, and this is honestly my personal favorite part of the animation process, because you're literally bringing it to life. You have all those shaky little lines. It's a lot of fun. But you may be going, but Mecha, she got no clothes on. That character had a jacket and ribbons and hair. Yes.
I'll do the thing.
Well, you start hating yourself for one. Because...
Oh, I'm already there.
Oh, boy. Anything that rests on the character and isn't tied down, we call a secondary or follow-through action. Which is basically, like I said, her actual anatomy is moving intelligently. Everything else is almost like effects animation. So when she goes down and grabs her staff, we gave her some baggy pants, so they would be dragging behind some, and they would fluff up, and like I said, they follow the action of the legs. And when she rests, so here, like she's landed her step, the pants continue moving just a little bit, and then rest. And that's where you get a lot of that little bouncy life to animation. You see it a lot in like children's cartoons or Bugs Bunny. When he lands, his ears kind of flop down, then they spring back up. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I could do all of these, the pants, the jacket, the hair, the staff. That could all be one layer.
But it would end up being, but then that would end up being a bit too tedious to keep track of, yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice to do one thing at a time. And different things have different levels. So the pants, in my mind, Tonfa's pants are relatively firm compared to the rest of it. But her sleeves is where we get a lot of that really fun life to them.
Sleevies!
And you can see, it's still not a perfect drawing by any stretch of the imagination. It's just kind of like that. The opening isn't perfect, but you start adding that in now, just so that as you go into the line work phase, you're getting some of your work done. Because we gave Tonfa this really fun ponytail. And also I did all these in different colors just to help keep track of everything. You'll see that in a lot of animations. They'll use like a black line for their anatomy sketch, and then they'll do reds and blues for their overlapping action. Um, but yeah, and you can also
But
see
you chose
there.
doing more brighter colors so it pops out to you more and it just helps you distinguish.
Yeah, it's just a way to keep track. So again, the hair isn't moving intelligently. So once she gets here, I know that her body and head aren't moving more and towards the right. So the hair does that little extra follow through, falls down, and then this is where I took a little bit of liberty. When she snaps her staff apart, I had her hair pop up just a little bit. You're focusing more on the feeling than the realism in animation. So would the hair bounce up when she snaps her staff? No. However, it adds emotion, action to it. So we do that. And again, this is where I started kind of keeping track of where the face was more, so that when I had to do the face, we'd have that. And then there's a layer for a stick because when I did the rough animation, I just literally made it 2 lines. But we have the little ribbons to keep track of. They have dimension. So we just add those. And, I mean, yeah, really each of these layers are more of the same. You add more notes. You add more little squiggles. And you're just making sure that as it all comes together, you move forward until you get the cleanup. And theoretically, it just comes to life on its own. And I did not do this on a separate layer because once you get to the later phase of it, it kind of helps to have as many things on one layer as possible. Just so that you're not coloring 1,000 layers. That's my personal workflow. You can still make the arm and the leg and everything its own layer. And if you're doing rigged animation, you have to. Which is something that we're going to do when we get into our pilot episode and stuff. But like you can have the body as one layer, so you only have to redraw the arms. But with this animation specifically, she's turning, she's twisting, and for me, it was easier just to draw it all in one go to get that extra liveliness to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because what I did here, I may have an extra. Well, actually, we'll play the video because I exported it. But before I added like all the details of her clothes, I basically did her silhouette first almost. I said, okay, the hair will be here, the stick will go here, and I got like all of the main shapes done. And then I did another pass, and I add in.
I just realized the. Sorry to interrupt again, but when she does that wide stance right there,
yeah,
as she's about to split her, like there, as she's about to split her tonfa staff in half, her hair kind of went through her legs, and it looked like a tail just right there.
Yeah, I saw that too. And you know what? I wasn't against it. I kind of like the idea because again, everyone's kind of monstrous, and that's kind of like personally that's one of the feels I wanted for Tonfa. I wanted her to have almost like a tail to follow her around. So I think it's fun. It's not like the original designs for the Ninja Turtles where their little baby tails looked like penises.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you notice, they don't draw the Ninja Turtles with the tail anymore.
They don't.
And that's why. But yeah, like I said, you're still going through in passes, and I'll play the videos there. But you focus on the big picture first, then go in and do the little details because you'll see it's easier to make those fixes before everything's on the paper first. But then the next step was color, which as you can see here in my timeline, I have a layer for her line work, and then I basically just copy and pasted everything and just started bucket filling because again, Toon Boom, I love it. Hope they sponsor us one day. You can just create a character palette and just slap it all down. Teeth, staff, robe, and they're called global colors. So if I came in here and I wanted to make her robe more red, I can do that. It'll update everything. But we definitely don't want to do that. So,
yeah, I really liked how the blue looks on her.
Oh yeah, Eros did an amazing job with swatching this character up for us. Eros, as some of you may know, he is our lore consultant, lead background artist, and color stylist. Just an amazing illustrator. So yeah, you just go ahead and it's coloring it is one of those things that just adds depth to it in a very nice way. As you see, we added details like the patterns on her robe, the little blue thing on her head, and I don't know. Like I said, I love it. It brings it to life. So we have that. I think around this part is when we had the background come in. So we'll go ahead and turn that on. We'll turn the camera on too. The camera I actually had worked out from the very beginning because again I used Storyboard Pro for it. But I thought it'd be good for this to let you see that. Well, that's what.
Yeah, because the idea was to have her spike the camera a bit.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these off for now. But yeah. The background sadly was not done by Eros, so there was some technical difficulties, so I had to take it over. But yeah. And then one of the final things that I've gotten into the habit of doing is adding a little shadow to the characters to make them feel more in place in the environment. I could go through and shade the character, but time and everything is not always on our side, so it's just a little tweened sphere that I basically try to keep in line with the legs. And it just follows. If I go into if I turn this part off, so as you can see, I know that the camera was not following her legs there, so I did not track the shadow for that part. But when it is in frame, make sure that shadow follows. If I go to render mode, I actually used a few nodes, and basically I just turned down the opacity of the black what's it called?
Ellipse.
Ellipse, yes, the black ellipse, and I gave it a slight Gaussian blur to make it feel a little bit more.
Okay, good. Because when you showed that without the
that's just because
blur, it will weird.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you.
Yes, like I said, there's just a nice little node that I can add there. But even if you can't do it, it looks a little weird. But when you're watching the full video, is it weird? Yes, but again, it helps show the character in that environment. And the coloring phase is another phase where you can add a few more motion blurs and stuff. So like here and there. I think I had them in the line work phase too, but it really comes to life, I think, when you fill those in. I don't know. That's just me. And of course, one of my favorite little things is adding some extra squash and stretch and bounce with some nodes there. They're a little hard to notice in this one because they're subtle. But so right here, you can see the keyframes. So as she rises up, I stretch her up a little bit so that then when she comes down, it feels like there's a little bit more weight dropping down on her.
Okay. And you know what the best part is about these types of breakdowns?
What's the best best part about these type of breakdowns? I don't know.
The facial expressions.
Oh yeah.
Wow! Just seeing the facial expressions are just the best.
And the reason that I can get away with this, and some people may argue that I can't, everyone likes different types of animation, but I think the biggest thing that makes this doable is just that the rest of her works. Like the face, the head is relatively consistent, the proportions are working. And it's a clear...
I just realized the pupils on her eyes in that one frame were, like, on the opposite sides. It looks so weird.
She did a little cross-eye, yeah. But, I mean, it's meant to be an extreme thing. And when you play it all in order, it just looks like she's surprised for a second and then moves into the next bit. But when there's so much going on, like, the face isn't really the focus. And... again, if everything else is working, like the strikes have a good arc to them. This is actually one of the ones that my teacher said that He said that I had a good understanding of volumes and dimensional drawing here. So when all of that's there, it's like, okay, we know the face is there, and that's the most important part. Also, another thing that I've been having a good time with that I think has made my animations a lot better: make your characters blink.
Blink, 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 blink.
Because something that you'll get into is you'll keep your characters like having a very like this. They'll just be angry eyed the whole time, or they'll just be wide eyed the whole time. And you're like, what expression works best for animation? A changing expression works best. So like, there's a moment where she's just calm. Oh, something's coming. And when you turn your head or or look in different directions, unless you're hyper focused, you normally blink. It's just that we blink fast, so you don't always notice it. But it's a micro expression that if you can remember, it makes your characters look much more alive. And your mouth does the same thing. You open and you inhale. You exhale and your mouth gets smaller. You grit your teeth. Let your character go through these ranges of emotion.
Crack your jaw or fucking yawn like I just did.
Yeah. Yeah, so like
anyway.
Here we have, and again, this is something I did after the line work was done. So it's like, what feels best? How long would she go without breathing? And she is focused, so she's not blinking a whole lot. But like here, she's working to disconnect the staff. So her eyes squint, not quite a blink. And then think about whenever you do move something big. Once you start to move it, you have a little bit of like a aha moment. So as her staff comes apart, she's like, yes! And then flip it, keeping track because she's looking. Okay, she knows where her target is. Blink real quick. Smack. And just those little things. And there's no one rule for it. But I personally think, like I said, adding those blinks and letting the mouth move really helps make the character feel less stiff. I think is the best word for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And going back to the breakdowns real quickly. So, rule of thumb, you can do more or less of these. In between every keyframe, you normally have at least one breakdown frame, which is like, so if the keyframe is the beginning and ends of an action, so here it ends with her striking, this keyframe is another getting ready to strike again, and then the next keyframe is the end of that strike. You have at least one breakdown normally of what the middle looks like. So the middle of the arc of her swing. Sorry, I wanted to step back and do that real quick. But yeah, that is basically how we went about animating the highlight or demo animation for Tonfa, our punk monk. One of the reasons that we went over
a lot different. It's a lot similar, but also a lot different than in just still images in comics, which is still pretty cool, I think.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things we're really trying to combine a lot of pizzazz techniques from a lot of different art forms, I think, which is what makes it really fun. So yeah, one of the reasons that we wanted to go over this video was because by the time this goes up next week or even this week, we are uploading our How to Kill a Monster trailer for the whole series. We don't necessarily know exactly when the pilot will be. We're aiming for this fall. But over the summer, we're going to be doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work with the series. We're going to be doing more tutorials. And might even do some lore stuff. So please, it's actually already set to premiere if it's not already out. So you can actually go to our YouTube channel right now and click set a reminder. And we plan on watching the trailer along with you guys. So you'll be able to talk to us in that little chat bubble and ask questions. We might be able to answer them. And we'll just have a good time and show you what we've been working on for the past year.